It's Tuesday, December 11th. Tonight, a Durham woman has come home to start a business. Next on North Carolina Now. A former top national model who grew up in Chapel Hill and Hillsborough always stayed grounded in the garden, kitchen, and dining room, rather than in a photo studio or on location. Zacki Murphy is now comfortably at home in North Carolina after a career in New York and California. Bob Garner explains, though, that even during her time away, her roots were never really transplanted out of her native soil.
Zacki Murphy was the UNC homecoming queen. She was a Carolina cheerleader, 1 year ahead of yours truly on that squad in the mid-1960s. Considering her looks, maybe it was inevitable that she became a CoverGirl caliber model, but it wasn't her lifelong dream.
That wasn't in my mind at all. It was my mother's mind and my aunt, who was a friend of the editor of Harper's Bazaar. And that was about after college. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to marry my college boyfriend and settle down and be a teacher.
And what she was really interested in began in the gardens of her childhood homes, first in Chapel Hill and later in Hillsborough.
We grew vegetables, we grew herbs. The first thing I started selling at age 6 was mint to Fowler's Food Store. So I became very interested in herbs at that time. And about that age, I began doing breakfasts for my mother and father, like Sunday brunches. And I would go out and pick little flowers to put on their trays and those kind of things. So it goes way back to my youth.
Even as she was landing top modeling assignments, Zacki was just as focused on introducing her beloved Lexington-style barbecue sandwiches to New York by way of her custom-designed pushcart, which she sometimes manned between photo shoots when the hired help didn't show up. And in her tiny New York apartment, the model with the million-dollar features was always inventive with cooking.
She'll kill me for saying this, but she was going to do put clay around a duck and roast it. Well, when she cracked the clay open in this dim little galley of a kitchen, of course the duck wasn't done. And I think we may have just put it back in the oven again, but I think we might have gone out to dinner that night.
Zacki later became a food stylist with Martha Stewart. Having come home to North Carolina several years ago, she's now a Durham-based caterer, personal chef, and teacher, not only of cooking, but hospitality.
It's about gathering people together at the communal table. And one of the things I loved about growing up is that we always had Sunday suppers together. How many families really do that anymore? How many families get together? And I thought the times I remember in my life were the times that we gathered together as a family. We had friends over. We broke bread. We drank wine. It was wonderful. And I go back to that civility. And that is one thing that I am teaching in the classes that I teach. It's not just about cooking, it's bringing people together again.
Zacki's latest passion and enterprise is creating ancient Mediterranean meals of the first century. Sort of a what would Jesus have eaten group experience she puts on at churches and in private homes. Often there's an instructional PowerPoint and a cooking class on the various recipes, but there's always a meal. A recent home presentation of this meal in Chapel Hill began with wine, fava bean hummus and pita bread, and grilled sardines, in this case, smelts.
And smelts were considered the little fish that were in the nets that Jesus caught, the Sea of Galilee. And do you know what St. Peter's fish really is, they think? Do you?
I do.
What is it?
Tilapia.
Thank you. I must have told you.
Actually, I had read that.
Oh, you read that, yes. So tilapia, and I mean, how much more healthy could you get than that? We're going to have a dinner of tilapia over bulgur wheat. And the tilapia has been coated with olive oil, with garlic, with a citrus juice, with something I call ancient Mediterranean seasoning, which I make, by the way. And it will have capers.
The menu can vary. At this meal, there was also salad with bitter herbs, a reminder of the Israelites' bondage in Egypt, although this was sweetened with a pomegranate dressing. Simple grilled vegetables, similar to those that might have been eaten at that time in Galilee and Judea, and fresh and dried fruit, plus simple pastries for dessert. Zacki has done extensive research on dietary laws and kosher practices of the time, but it isn't just the historical information or the emphasis on simple, healthy eating that grabs participants' imaginations.
Zacki she's just extremely passionate about this program, and I work with her and I've seen how she really puts her heart in it, and every single time she cooks this meal for a church or for a group of people, and then when she talks describing the meal, it's worth seeing.
They kind of understand that Jesus was a human being, that all of these people that they read about and have a lot of reverence for were people who had to eat to live. And the things that they ate at sometimes seem very foreign, but these days, with the way food is, they're much more familiar.
Zacki's immersion in the ancient Mediterranean diet of Jesus' time hasn't changed one thing.
I still love my pork barbecue. What I'm teaching here is more kosher, but there was a time in which Jesus did say, it is not about the law of what we ingest. What is important is what is in our heart. That's the most important thing. So maybe Jesus would have liked my Lexington-style barbecue, hickory smoked.
You can learn more about Zacki Murphy's various culinary adventures at zackisculinarycreations.com.